This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to a Glass Blowers Companion, episode number 14. This is your host, Jason Michael. How the hell are you doing today? Hope you are doing well and staying safe and healthy during these crazy times. It's good to be back on schedule and keeping these shows consistent for you. This week we have another special guest, Blossom Knight. She also is Blossom Glass on the Instagrams. And she's pretty rad. She's got a really pretty line of work I really do appreciate and was really stoked to have her on. As you'll find in our chit-chat, immediately her and I had a pretty major connection in our glass life, which I'm still blown away by, to be honest with you. It's pretty crazy. And she's definitely got a fun story, and really do hope that you do enjoy her story that she shares today. And you can find her again out there on the Instagrams at Blossom Glass. And again, I'll have all these links and everything in the show notes. So all you have to do is go to the details on the podcast post, and then all the links will be there as well. And then she shares it at the end of the episode, too. Also, don't forget Mountain Glass is still sponsoring the show, and they are still open. They are not right now doing same-day deliveries. They are also still doing curbside pickup. They're not letting people in their warehouse, but you can order if you're local, whether you're on the East Coast or West Coast of their locations. You can call ahead, place an order, go by, pick it up kind of thing. And definitely do recommend that. And because of what's going on right now and the uncertainty of things, they have been doing weekly sales instead of doing monthly sales, which is why I haven't had an advertisement at the beginning of these episodes, just mainly because of that, just because their sales are changing constantly. So you can check out either follow Glass Blowers Companion, which I hope you do, on Instagram, or you can follow Mountain Glass on Instagram as well. Also, if you are a customer of theirs, and even if you're not, you can go to mountainglass.com. Sign up for you basically create an account, and then they have a little button that you can click for their newsletter, and then you'll get their updates on when they have sales coming out and what have you. Also, if you have subscribed to the newsletter for this podcast, I'm going to be getting back on track. It's something I was doing pretty consistently while I was still working, and then got out of work and completely forgot about it, to be honest with you. So I'm getting back on track with that. Also, a little thing I've been working on, too, is the YouTube channel for this podcast and just for the Wise Guy Media brand. You can find me on YouTube at Wise Guy Media. The last week, I went through and categorized all these episodes and pretty much put them in their own specific places. So if you want to listen to the artist interviews and some of the other miscellaneous things that went along with the artist as guests, I have a category playlist on YouTube for artist interviews. Also have the Wise Guy Minute series. That's a side show, in a sense, within this podcast. They have their own specific playlist as well. I also have Luke Zimmerman's episodes I have pulled out for the law information and stuff. I have those in their own little playlist. Also have health and talk about the health stuff. And the Wise Guy Minute stuff a lot of it is business talk in there, so I kept that all. I was going to do a separate business playlist, but I figured I would just keep it all in the Wise Guy Minute. So that being said, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you could please leave us a review, whether it's iTunes or whatever podcast app you have that allows the reviews to be able to be done. And then also, if you could check out our YouTube channel. Again, it's Wise Guy Media. Subscribe to that. We have about 63 subscribers right now, which I'm super pumped about. So there you go. So again, thanks again for tuning in. Hope you enjoy this episode with the Session 1 of Season 3 of the Tournament of Fire's winner, Blossom. And we will see you next time on A Glass Blower's Companion. Thanks for tuning in. Love you so much. Take it easy. Peace.
I had done fume and prep, and I'd done a lot of wig-wag and done flat cake, like chip stack stuff, and marbles. But then at that time, I started doing more like hollow horns and discs, and taking like the wig-wag to another level, making it really clean. When we first figured out different ways to do the prep, as far as Cowboy showed us stick stack, and then eventually figured out backstack after that, and how you could put more detail and more lines into each section and stack more sections. And then with Instagram, or more really like Facebook back then, seeing more stuff around 2010, and more people like supporting the higher end stuff, so I could sell a spoon for, a wholesale spoon for $30 instead of $10, or I could sell it for maybe $50. And now my wholesale spoons are $75. So I do
Heck yeah.
pretty much as much detail as I can in there, and do more sculpting, and just like really upping each one being consistent, and just using the most out of my skill. I'm like, well, if I can do a really cool sculpted flower with an opal and add some more lines, then I'm going to make it, like, I guess, as heady as I can, and then see if I can get the price for it.
Yeah.
But this guy from his name Alex, or from Eddie's Headies, and he I think he was doing well in his retail store, probably from like Kratom or something other, and so he just started spending a bunch of money with us, and a couple other like shops that were like starting to invest in Headies, Illusions, Glass, and they were buying our higher end stuff, so we could do like a chip stack work, and they'd pay a lot more for it because it was more detailed. And so just getting a couple people that would actually invest in your art, let you take it to the next level.
Yeah,
And seeing people that charge hundreds for a pendant, so you're like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Can you give me 1 second, Blossom? I gotta turn my Wi-Fi off on my phone. My connection's been kind of weird.
Okay.
It may disconnect us, so if it does disconnect us, I'll call you like right back. But let me try and turn my Wi-Fi off real quick.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, cool. It's still there. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, all good. Sorry, I'm talking too fast, maybe.
Oh no, it's just I have my studio's outside the house. It's disconnected from my house, and I have a Wi-Fi extender thingy out in the garage that I just moved out here today, which I don't know why I didn't do this months ago or even years ago. But it's still kind of weird. It's just choppy. So I just want to make sure that it was the best sound as we can get.
Well, and so back on what when I started blowing glass in like I said, 2005, I was making a lot of pendants, and so even my boyfriend Sean at the time was doing chip stack stuff, and he would end up with all these flat cane ends that I would then press into petals and make little petal pendants and little flower pendants. It was like a little implosion center. So I had been making flowers for a long time, but it took me probably up until, the past couple years to actually get to put flowers on functional pipes.
Okay.
And especially to make water pipes and rigs. And so like even just to put a nice flower like on a chillum and to make it like fit the piece really nice and to look nice and to still like, to be satisfying and like not all gross and just sticking off the piece, and like just to make it look good has taken me this long. But I think I've made flowers for a long time, and I've made pendants for a long time, but just refining my style, it has literally taken just so many hours and years behind the torch to actually get the product to be as good, I feel like, as it is right now.
Yeah, well, it's beautiful stuff. Like I can tell the refinement, that you've done, and it's fun that you started off with the flower and then started to incorporate that in your work. It's I love the chip stack style. Going back through your stuff too, just checking it out over the last couple of days. It's something that you don't see much anymore, and I love that style. Like I've always liked the basket weave look. I remember, like you're saying, like back in the mid 2000s, I guess it was really like when you got started, that was a big thing. And everybody was trying to outdo everybody, like, who can do the coolest chip stack basket weave. I remember seeing like Chris Carlson back when I think he was still going by LA Glass back then. He was doing some just crazy shit, and I was just like, how are these guys doing this stuff? And I didn't really understand it because I'm, for the most part, being self-taught minus Gordon stuff and learning some stuff from Daniel. After that 2 years, it was all from self-taught from that point. So like going to shops and seeing all this crazy ass heady stuff. Like I remember a buddy of mine had a shop down south from me, and he was the only shop in the area that had anything from California or an Oregon area. So I was seeing all this stuff coming out, and quill potting and just crazy shit. Seeing
Yeah,
just
double layering too, the layering stuff
yeah,
that
yeah,
Jason was doing, and you were like, how? Like
yeah,
there was things that you could look at and still not like it would take you days and weeks and like thinking about what process. Even now, like so many things, and I'm trying to like always bring in new um new things that I want to try, as well as just refining what I already know how to do. But
hmm
bringing like more stringer drawing and pattern work, and just upping the ways you layer color, and how you get the desired end result. But yeah, allowing yourself to grow and bring in new stuff while still making a paycheck is my everyday challenge.
yeah. Tell me, I understand that. Yeah, it's definitely tricky, especially when you're like trying something new and you're like 2 days into something, and then you have a pile of glass on your bench when it's all said and done. It's like okay, so but it's how you
Yeah,
learn,
if
and those
you
that
don't
don't
know
do
how to do it. Yeah.
yeah, and then those that don't do that kind of stuff are the ones that are going to be just stuck making recyclers for the rest of their life. You know.
I've never made a recycler, so that's still on, and with the sculpting, everybody really like taking sculpting to the next level. I mean, I integrate a little bit of new stuff, and I think that's where I find my balance.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
a lot of the people I work with now are really great. So,
yeah, and I was going to ask you that too, like your environment, like your studio space. How many artists do you work around?
well, I used to just work in my basement for years and years, with my first boyfriend in Kansas City, Missouri. And then 4 years ago, I went on the road, did some traveling, did a festival circuit, and then I ended up in Oregon, here in Portland, renting from a big studio called Liberty Glass,
Yep.
big production studio. And there are 4 or 5 people in there, doing different stuff, a couple independent artists. And then I moved to a different part of Portland, and I work with a company called Oracle Glass, and a guy who built his own studio and rents about 4 or 5 different stations, all to different artists. But he's got a little bit like more equipment. He's got like a lathe that I can use and some cold working stuff. And they're all like super positive, and he's building a whole new studio this next year coming up to with just like he's just investing a lot in the business, and just like super positive about the future and where it's going. So like going in there, just going to work every day is a really positive situation as far as sharing knowledge. And um, most of the kids I work with, well, I guess they're not all kids. I say kids, but a few of them are older than me. Some are old school artists. John Dillinger's in there. Um, Matt C just moved into our shop. A couple other people just making crit pipes and stuff. Um, but Oracle does he does quartz, and so there's a lot to learn on that side that I've been there, for a few months, and it's a nice work environment. So I'm
Yeah,
happy
it's
about it.
yeah, it's
Everybody's
awesome.
pretty positive.
Because I know a lot of studios I've been in over the years, just either renting space or playing. It's if we had live cams in there, we would definitely have a fun, dramatically filled reality TV show. You know.
Oh yeah, I know. We want to do that. Yeah, he's got some setup. He's getting more camera set up, and um, I want to share more. I really do. I think and I'm just so happy to find other like-minded people and find community, because I was in my basement for so long, kind of feeling, disconnected. And connecting at the trade shows is great. And then you go, and if you're in a studio, like there's a lot of people in Oregon too. Like I think with Champs and DFO connecting me to so many people when I get back to Oregon, I really want to go work with a lot more people. I did uh, if you know Scuba or Lacey, they
hmm
have a spot in Southern Oregon, and I did like a little art show at his spot, and connected with a few guys down there in Ashland, and it's just awesome. He travels all over dealing with a lot of people, and he's just really big inspiration. And she's amazing. And I worked with her a little bit, and I want to work with her more. And so talking to people and working with other people is huge. Taking classes, it's such a, it just skyrockets you into just loving what you do and wanting to keep doing it and believing in it as a job.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know like the couple classes I've taken, I've only taken 2 classes, I guess, in a sense. But the first class was with Steve Seislove and Coil, and it definitely was. It was game changer, big time. And it wasn't really any. I mean, I learned some specific technique, but a lot of things I preach about for new artists when they go into studio spaces is to like look at the artist's bench and like see how their tools are and what they're using and how their shit's set up. If it's a fucking mess or not, like pay attention to that kind of stuff. And that's what I was looking at. Like I have tools that I have now that before those classes I didn't have, and then I see specific types of tungsten picks and tweezers and different things being used. It's like I can see why these guys have the quality work that they have. Is it's all about the tools. And for the longest time I wanted to be like
Really
caveman.
helpful.
Oh, it's huge, yeah. I just want to be the guy that just like made everything out of glass, like no tools involved. It's just my breath and the wind up my ass and my torch kind of thing. And then I started
Right, and
getting.
even
What was that?
go ahead.
I was saying, and then
No,
and
go
then
ahead. I don't
and,
know.
and then I had to get tools, and then like going to Disney too is the same thing. Like a lot of the sculptors I work with, these impression tools and little small things that they use for getting specific details and stuff was a game changer. And I feel like I'm taking a class every day at times at work, but it's definitely important to take classes, no matter how long you've been in this business for. It's just you need to take a class.
Yeah.
you
Or
know.
even, I mean, for sure, just because you get that interaction. But anytime you get a chance to see other people working and talk to them, it just elevates it. What you can do and your understanding with glass. It's a relationship,
Yeah,
like that
completely.
you're dealing with every day. But yeah, the tools you use, how you're using it. I really want to watch people work the lathe more, and just even learning how to use different torches too. Like I've worked on a Carlisle forever, and it's like just second nature to me. But like I have a GTT, and learning that is but I know what potential it has, and watching other people just getting the right flame. It's like it just humbles you so much because I don't know, you just can't really fake it.
Oh,
You
dude, you
can't
can't.
really, you have to, you
Not at all.
like you can put your stuff out there and you can put a face out there and you can talk and talk, but like if you don't actually like be one with what you're doing in that moment, it's not gonna work for you.
Completely. Yeah, I saw you
So
run a Carlisle. I've been rocking my Carlisle now 20 years, and I'm the same way. Like,
really nice.
oh yeah, dude, I love it. This thing's got clogged holes. Like, I've never had it refurbished. I need to get it sent in one of these days just to get some of these holes
Have
unclogged.
you ever had issues with your oxygen valves getting like sticky and just terrible, and then it like pops?
Oh yeah, tough. Like in the mornings when I turn my torch on, if I don't open up both oxygen and propane before I turn my thing on, just to bleed out any anything in the line, it wants to like make the loudest fucking exploding sound because I've got a slight little leak in my outside propane. So I have to like bleed the line completely, blow some oxygen through this shit, and then I can turn my stuff on and then light my flame. It's like this process I have
And
to go
what
through.
about yeah? What about the little torch? When did you integrate a little torch, and do you, right?
Yeah. So I started using a hand torch and a blow hose about 4 years ago now, maybe.
Okay. Okay. And
And
if you've been blowing glass that long, then you get it. Like, wow, game changer.
yeah, I was like, why didn't I have this 20 fucking years ago? These things have been available
It's hard
forever.
for me to work with the blow hose, but the
It's
little torch just allows you so much more.
Oh, it's incredible. And the funny thing is like, so working at Disney and growing up and going to these parks and seeing the glass blowers, I've seen them working on nationals forever. And our
Yeah,
hand torch, quote
I love
unquote,
national.
is a national. Like we have like a national with like a one hole or something, whatever the hell it is, the little OH tips, and they're big and bulky and like cumbersome. And then once I got my Smith, I bring my Smith to work with a little Hornet tip on it, just because it's like it's so convenient and comfortable. But you're talking about the changing torches. So like 2 years ago, I started making a new character for us, and it's a big piece of glass. Like the body itself, just his torso, is about 7-inch length of 1-inch diameter rod of clear, and we have a Mirage that I work on, and it was my first time working on Mirage. So I'm like learning how to make this brand new piece, having to make it, and it being a character, it has to be consistent. So I got the piece approved. It took me 6 months to figure out how to do this thing and get it to a point to where it could then be sold, because I was also learning a new torch. So I was just burning the shit out of the glass. Like I was just overusing this GTT, and it's at a point now where like it's got a foot pedal. Like my Carlisle doesn't have a foot pedal on it, so I'm just like I'm so used to how I work on my Carlisle.
Me neither. Me too.
And just but now though that I've been in my studio the last couple of weeks here, I still step down on the ground to hit my foot pedal. Even though I don't have one. It's so frustrating. I'm like, I need to get a foot pedal, but I don't want a foot pedal in my studio, but I need to get one. You know, it's silly. But yeah, I definitely recommend anybody that starts off, you know, it's like going from a Red Max to a GTT. It's like you got to really
so
learn.
Many jokes about the Red Max. Yeah. And then I've worked with, or just been around more people working the Bethlehems and then the Herbert Arnolds, and like just there's so much to learn, and I'm so excited about it. I don't know if I've stopped talking since I've been actually more around people that I can actually see day to day, like who have just experienced different shops and different tools and different ways of working.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I love it. I always compare it to skateboarding. Like every, you know, skateboarders have their own style, their own boards, their ways that, you know, whether they're the goofy footed or whatever, you know, how they skate. And I always feel like glassblowers are very similar. You know, we have our style that we wear, we have our torches and our tools and our stickers, and some people have their shit, you know, sandblasted and covered in opals. You know, it's so funny how eccentric us glassblowers can be.
Yeah, your personality really comes out in it. That's why it's funny, because it's so competitive, but yet there's so much room for everybody to be different. There's so much individualism. You could literally have 10 people basically making the same thing, and they might all do it a little different.
Yep.
You know, everybody, like, it has to do your own way, what works for you, you know? And so, like, I know there's like a lot of biting and like competitive, and like everybody's out for the same money and all this. But to me, I always think just like I support everybody, and I think there's room for everybody. I mean, in all fairness, it's healthy competition, I think.
Oh, I completely agree. Yeah, we all make each other better. You know, it's
Yeah.
there's like 400 million fucking smoke shops out there, so there's definitely room for everybody at every level of glass. You know, it's just, I guess, just understanding that, you know, don't go out there and sell a bunch of garbage at a high price, or, you know, and also don't sell a lot of nice stuff for a low price. You know, it's a weird balance, but there's definitely room for everybody.
Yeah, I know. It's a dramatic scene.
Yeah, very much so. I always laugh about like getting people together. You know, it's like glass blowers are very to themselves, but you get them in Vegas at these conventions. Like we're not allowed back at the Hard Rock Hotel anymore because we're fucking crazy people. You know, when we get us all together, like the porn stars can still go there, but no, the glass blowers aren't welcome back again.
So have you done the champs for
No, not yet.
or no? Okay.
No.
It's worth checking out. And what about when I first discovered, I was like, oh my gosh, there's between DFO, and I was like, now there's Melt, and I'm like, what are all these? I want to be a part of the Flame Offs. I was like, put me in there.
Yeah.
You know, and I definitely like pushed to get into DFO, and I was like, I want to be up on stage, and I'm just like, I'll do, you know, whatever it takes. I'll share what I got. I hope to be able to teach classes in this new facility that they're building at my work. We want to have more collaborations going on, and more classes and more live stuff, and hopefully that just benefits everyone.
Yeah, that's rad. Have you always had like a drive, like a love for teaching, just in general, or and like being a quote unquote performer, or has that been like a thing of yours?
I mean, definitely. Like we were as kids, we were always very like the showmanship. I worked with the public, like working a booth, doing sales. My dad was always both my parents were always both like entertainers in a sense.
Yeah,
you know, that was and it's crazy because the festivals are not going on right now, so my family's kind of like, oh man, like we need we need this back, you know, like traveling, that's their lifestyle. that's their livelihood. And so doing that has always been a part of me. And they do jewelry and stuff too. So like I really like doing the style, the festival uh, jewelry, like clothing, all of that, like show your personality, put it out there kind of stuff, is just like part of my being. So I definitely want to share. I would love to teach. I would love to, you know, take on more branding type
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I think right now the opportunity, especially right now with the way the world is, the technology is definitely at our advantage right now to be able to do virtual classes and teach. And I mean, nothing's better than having a hands-on class. Don't get me wrong, but still, the opportunity is here for us as those of us that want to teach, because it's not definitely a performance sense is not for everybody. Like where I work, we've had artists that have come through like sometimes as like a revolving door, because it takes a certain personality to be able to work where I work. Working at Disney with all these screaming kids, and not to mention I'm in a black dress shirt and a pair of black dress pants and black shoes. So I don't have a lot of
Yeah.
I can't like show my personality, quote unquote, except that I wear bow ties and I wear crazy fucking socks all the time. So it's like that's like my way of being an artist is just like, this is what I do. And then I also interact with the guests, and talk and educate and stuff. But it's not for everybody, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
I like having company while I'm working. Like I like getting that work zone, but I also like talking to people and being like, "Hey, look what I can do. Check this out."
Hmm.
Like I'm into it.
Yeah, it's fun to show off. As long as you're, because I get asked all the time, like, aren't you nervous up here in front of, we're gonna mess you up by us watching you? And I was like, I would tell them, it's like, if I was up here singing and playing a guitar right now, yes, but because I've been doing this for 20 years, it's okay. You guys can sit here and watch me.
Yeah, you're like, this is my day job.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm going to be a little bit slower because I'm doing two things at once, but I still am like, sometimes I just, zone out. So, yeah.
yeah, totally. I always tell people like that are learning this stuff, like, you want to treat your torch like a hammer or a screwdriver. Like, it's that easy to use, but you got to actually like use it and fuck it up and make a mess and burn yourself a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But
Some
it's just
people get
as
really nervous
yeah.
in front of, they're like, oh, I can never do a flame off at champs or whatever, because people will be watching me. And I've seen people just shake and like, it is, you do get nervous, but
Yeah.
it's, I think of fear and excitement as like, the same kind of thing. I want to be bold. I want to do life-changing stuff. And
Hell yeah.
so,
I love it. Yeah, I'm the same way. Because I like whenever I'm like, if I have too much coffee, for instance, and I do have like a caffeine
yeah, yeah.
tremor, and I'm always like, okay, folks, like I don't say it out loud, but to myself, I'm like, okay, I'm not nervous. I just have had too much caffeine right now, and I can't get this little black, small, tiny pupil right now in the eye where I want it because I'm shaking too much.
What was it? The guy who runs the Austin Grav Labs, Micah Evans. I was watching one of his things on YouTube, and I don't know if he was making the yo-yo or if he was doing something else, and he was like pretty comfortable and had done a lot of classes and just really great all-around guy to watch and to talk to. But I was watching his thing at one of the universities or whatever, and he goes, okay, lined it up perfectly, stuck it together crooked. And it was just one of those moments. I've done this hundreds of times. He goes, great. That's what happened. Just as I'm showing you, like perfect lined up, stuck it together crooked.
Yep.
So, we all have our off days where it all like work for consistency, and, you can't self-hate. Sometimes the first time's a charm. You ever get that one where you like make it the first time and you're like, oh, awesome, nailed it. And then you try like the next 5 times and you're like, what is going wrong?
Oh yeah, it's the worst. And like my wife right now, she's on the torch now 5 times, I think she's been on so far. And so like day one, she made like the perfect like round, because when I teach classes, I make my students make a blob like day one. Like get on here, feel the heat, make a blob of glass, just kind of feel it out. And she's on here and she's like, she's an overachiever and a perfectionist at the same time. So she's like, okay, I'm not making a blob, I'm making a perfectly round marble as big as I can. And she did. It was like, I was completely fucking mind blown. And then day 2, she comes in here and she's like, I think today I'm going to make a cat. I'm like, you can't make a fucking cat. Just giving her shit, She made a fucking cat. It looked like a cat. She used my little tools to make its eyes and nose. And, I mean, everything about this was a cat. It was crazy. And then day 3, she wanted to make a flower. So I'm like, okay, well, make a flower. And then day 4, she wanted to make a little Mickey head. And so she made a little small Mickey head, and you could tell where she was going for was making Mickey. And I told her, I'm like, every time you do a one-off, that's how it's going to be. But you try and do that 1,000 times, by about number 100, you may finally have it figured out. But it takes 100 times.
Yeah, it's all encompassing. Like it takes your mood, it takes patience, it takes being organized. It's like it's that balance of try really hard, but don't try too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it, let it be natural. Like take your time, but try to be efficient. And it's just great to know that like other people go through the same things.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is why another reason I wanted to do this show, just so that other artists out there can listen to this and know that they're not the only ones that take a hot blowpipe and polish it and then stick it right in their mouth.
oh, the kiss of, yeah, that's, I've seen somebody do that before.
Oh, I've done it myself. It's
Oh,
a, it,
you were gonna, yeah, one of the questions was like worst injury
yeah.
at that one. There was these
Well,
interviews back in the day. They
oh,
were called Hello Glass interviews. Did you ever
yep, yep.
see those? I was on one of them. I could never find it. I know the guys, my first trade show that I went to, he interviewed me. But they were always, the sound quality was terrible. So people keep, trying. So the more podcasts that come out, the more people that are doing this, I'm appreciative.
Heck yeah. Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Um, but his sound was terrible, and the questions were always kind of the same, and so I wanted a little bit, a little bit something different. So more people doing it is great.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely the era of podcasts, so it's a
Yeah,
great
definitely.
way.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. For me, it was like another creative outlet as well, besides just doing glass. Because I always find, I'm not sure if you're the same way, but like I feel like my glass just like takes all of my creative energy from me. So if I want to sit down and like draw or play my guitar or something of that nature, it's like I don't really have the drive because all of that creative juice is gone, or I may have like a little bit
Yeah,
left in the
it's
bottom of my
hard to
glass.
have other hobbies. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so important. Like, do you do anything else outside of glass? I know you said you're doing the Rent Fest stuff.
Well, I don't do the that as traveling as much, anymore.
Just mostly
Um,
visiting.
yeah, yeah, and with the shows and the glass trade shows and the flame offs, and more like trying to be focused on the Instagram, and just kind of just getting wrapped up in that scene, but wanting to do like more merch, and everyone's with their logos and their stickers and just that sort of thing. But just with so more like drawing, more stuff like that, creating. I don't really have much else right now. I mean, Oregon is just it's so beautiful with all the outdoor stuff that I'm really big into like fitness and outdoorsy, like hiking and kayaking and dance and those kind of things.
Heck yeah. Yeah, it's important. Got to have that outside of the studio something to do besides making yourself crazy blowing glass all the time.
Yeah, that's it. It really takes up so much of my time, and I put in so many hours. I want to do other stuff for sure. Um, it's just been tough. It's been a rough couple of months for me personally. So.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to talk about it, I know you had mentioned pre-show about having some health issues that you've been dealing with, and
Well, and just family stuff too. My mom passed away in December.
oh shit, sorry to hear.
Um, yeah, and my little sister is also battling cancer, and so she's had a lot of change of life stuff, and she mostly does traveling and Ren Fair, and so like she's been kind of off, and everyone's like, what do we do with ourselves when we're not working,
Mm-hmm.
But and my older sister's also a glass blower, and she's got two kids, and so I'm always trying to connect with them, and they were trying to relocate, and there was just a lot of like having to spend talking to family and dealing with family over the past like literally couple of months. Has been kind of a lot of that has been occupying my time. um and so, and then when my own health kind of went downhill, and just really a lot of stress brought out eczema, which was like all brought, it was like immunities were low, and like just being happy and having that, like, I've been doing more yoga and meditation and eating, changing my diet and all that stuff just to try to just be really healthy. And so many hours of torching behind that too, and having that social network is really important. So it's kind of all encompassing, just a healthier lifestyle. That's
Heck
what I've
yeah.
been trying to do.
I deal with eczemas myself sometimes with certain things, and sometimes it's food related, sometimes it's stress related. You never know, but I know stress is a lot of it definitely is a signal if you're dealing with some kind of skin issue.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. You have
Uh-huh.
like this internal thing going on, and it just like shows itself up on the outside. Like this is not good.
Right. And so you really have to like take time off, and you have to get rest and eat well. And like I was raised really like holistically and vegetarian, and like hippie parents. My name is
Yeah,
Blossom,
yeah,
and so um I've just been trying to like reestablish some footing and some grounding, and just appreciating everything that I have and appreciating where I live. And it's expensive to live in Portland, to rent here and all of that, and the cost of living is higher, but the quality of life is really good. So I'm excited for the summer, and I'm excited to just like really uh, be the best that I can be at what I'm making and how I'm doing it, and the way I'm living. So
yeah. I think this time right
getting a
now.
healthy check is
Yeah, completely. Yeah, absolutely. And I know for me too. Like I'm in the same boat. Like this whole time period we're all going through was a big kind of a wake up to me. Like, okay, time to get myself back into that space again. Because like before, I don't know, 3 years ago or whatever, I was like on a really good health lifestyle. You know, I was like the best shape of my life at 40 years old, and et cetera. And now like this coronavirus hits, and I'm like learning how to make macarons and shit right now. You know, like I'm eating like shit, and I'm enjoying it because it's delicious. But it's also put on like 10 pounds over this last like month and a half or whatever. You know, the corona weight I put on. You know, so I'm like
I
yeah.
Yeah, I get that. A lot of people, I've been the opposite. Like I lost a lot of weight, and I've been drinking celery juice, and I've been doing all the healthy things for my stomach, and from the healing perspective. And like I said, my little sister's been through a lot in the past couple years, and she's battling cancer, but she's doing it in a way, like she did chemo last year, and then this year it came back, and so she's just doing all of this like fasting, and just these amazing like mind body empowerment, like
Hmm.
whatever it takes, for
Yeah.
you to do what you need to do. um so I'm definitely like exercise every day, get outside, eat healthy, and working the right, not overworking myself behind the torch. I used to have a lot of like hand and wrist problems too, where I had to stop working for a little while because the production was just killing me.
Hmm.
So, it's like, don't stress about money. I'm also trying to pay my taxes and get out of debt and all of that. So it's like, just work the right amount, work smart, and get your routine down to be really productive, and get some sleep and be healthy.
Yeah, it's all important. A buddy of mine he had a podcast. It was called Entrepreneur Fitness, which then led to him doing this jump rope fitness stuff that I became involved with. But I was really turned on to the show because it was about like how if your mind and body are not in check, then everything else around you is going to fall apart. And as that, like, we put our body through a lot of shit when we're blowing glass. Exposure to radiation from the torch and the physical side of things. So it's like you're saying, it's so important to get a routine, which I'm trying to get myself now back into a routine. Because like when this whole Corona thing started, I didn't have work anymore. So I'm like, well, I was, and thank God I was still getting paid, and I'm still am getting paid. And I was like,
That's
well,
great.
I don't have to work, but I want to, because I'm just a workaholic. But I also like want to get ahead of myself here. So I was getting up at 5:30, and I was, I did that for 3 days. I'd get up at 5:30 and then be in bed by 10, and then I had a late night in the studio, and then it all went to shit, And it's now I'm like trying to get myself back up
It's
at.
hard.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's so crazy. It's like Yeah, it's wild. And when you know the whole nation's shut down and there's really no rush, it's like it kind of makes us all kind of like it's like there's two sides of the coin. It's like, okay, take advantage of this time, everybody being down, and hustle your ass off and get ahead of everybody, or just go with the flow. That I was in that struggle of like, what do I want to do?
Yeah, I have to be pretty easygoing about things, but still make really good choices,
Yeah, I
wherever I
like that.
can. And yeah, be like sort of go with the flow, like be easygoing, but make take advantage of opportunity, make smart choices, like make like I believe you have to get after it if it's what you want. Ambition's really important to me. I'm
Hmm.
just a high achiever. Yes. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, uh, it it all matters. And I've never really had job security. And when times of COVID and everyone's like kind of freaking out, and most of my shops were like, well, we can't buy, we're not open. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll put stuff up for sale like on retail and like just Facebook and like see if anybody up for grabs, because I never really had luck with auctions and I didn't really do direct sales. And I had just old school always done quantity, to shops wholesale.
Hmm.
But the more I promoted, okay, I'm going to take a video of this one little pendant and do a giveaway and, make the little things kind of count for something bigger. And, it definitely worked. And I get so much good feedback, like just a little bit of hope. And that's all you need to keep going. And I have had some really low moments that have made me really strong, and definitely had a hard time paying my bills and didn't know where my next dollar was coming from, and had days of losing work and just like to cracks or bad prep or whatever. And you have to just start new and get up and keep believing that there's money in the industry. I can make a living. I can, I belong here. This is what I'm meant to do.
Heck yeah.
So
Have you found like, in a sense, like growing up with glass, like that has taught you a lot of stuff, just like life lessons?
um growing up around people independently doing their craft and believing that this is a lifestyle they chose. I grew up very poor, but we were like traveling gypsies, and we definitely didn't always know where our next dollar was coming from. It didn't make much money, but my parents believed, that what they enjoyed doing, and they chose that quality over um, like all the best like glass blowing thing is like we're not in it for the money. We're in it because this is what we want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact that it's I don't know if virtuous is the word, but it's worthwhile. It has great meaning.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yes, it's
Yeah.
definitely been, I feel like, affirming that it's the right choice. Every time it puts me in check. Every time it makes me question, am I where's my next dollar coming from? All of a sudden I have somebody who wants $1,000 custom, and I'm just like, wow, really? Thank you so much. You put all like that's so meaningful.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? 'Cause I know, like back in the day when I would struggle and I would get to that point where I'm like, okay, I think I need to go get a part-time job, and I would go out and
Mm.
apply for jobs, and I would get a small little part-time job, and every fucking time, 2 or 3 days into it, I'd get a distributor would call me, or I'd get a big order like that from a shop that I knew was going to take me at least like 2 weeks to crank out. So I'm like, all right, sorry
Yeah.
guys, but I can't even give you 2 weeks. I got to quit right now. you know?
Yeah, I thought, and all of a sudden I had no sales at the COVID, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, and I had to borrow to pay my rent, and I didn't get a stimulus yet, and then all this stuff just was crashing. And but then all of a sudden now I'm just like filling up my books. I'm booked again for at least a couple months.
That's awesome. So yeah, that's something
So
I was going to ask you
yeah.
about, like how you go about your way of like making your orders and stuff. Do you like so you're keeping a calendar in a sense? Like, do you understand like how long something takes you to make or what have you, so you can kind of schedule things out?
Yeah, I just kind of have a rough time estimate, and I put the date down of when somebody orders. I give them a rough estimate, and then I do it, in the order received. And if I get some smaller customs I can kind of work those in, because it's like you have to have a balance. I know it's like I support shops because they support me, But if somebody wants a little, a little purple flower pendant and they just can't get it anywhere, I'm going to put some stuff up for sale online and I'm going to sell it right to you because, it makes me happy. But it's like you got to find the balance, and like dealing with is people through Instagram too is always a challenge because it's like you're spending a lot of your time sitting there DMing and talking, oh, I want this color and I want that color. And it gets kind of overwhelming and it's hard to, like, your messages don't always show up and keeping things organized. So I just have a book and I'm just like writing everything down. That's my thing with this year, like keeping track of my expenses, my orders, trying to be more legitimate. I mean, I've had an LLC for since 2007 when I first bought my house and had to establish, legitimately to get a loan that I'm a real business. And so right now, I've kind of when I traveled and things kind of got off wire, but now I'm writing everything down. So I'm trying to be better
Yeah,
at keeping organized.
you-
Instagram is pretty much my platform for all income at this point.
nice. Heck yeah.
Even if wholesale orders in shops, they pretty much will send me orders through DM.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to hear because it's so important to keep track of your shit and having an LLC too. It's like something I was talking to my brother about that the other day when all the stimulus checks and stuff are coming out, and a lot of artists that are struggling, they can't get the stimulus check because maybe they're not paying their taxes or they're not being taken as a business, or you know what I'm saying. So it's important to not only pay your taxes but to also to set yourself up so you can build, like you're saying, you got to build some kind of something to be able to buy a house. You got to show proof of income.
Yeah, I'm really trying to understand it, to be one with it, to do all the right things. I pay a lot to self-employment. A lot of that's, I guess, to Social Security, Medicaid,
Hmm.
but like, health stuff, all of it. Like deserve a chance, and I'm doing everything I can to pay my bills and pay my debt and still buy glass. And another big expense, but it's great being in Oregon because I can go right into the color companies and I've learned so much since I've been here, just being able to talk to other artists. And I'm every day like learning the prep and what to buy and how to do it and about color and how to use colors. And it's pretty great. The Tournament of Fire, winning that, I definitely got some extra prep from like some greasy glass that I had never really tried before and some other stuff that I'm really excited about. So
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
wait to go back to work, actually.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so that being said, the Tournament of Fire, I wanted to bring that up. So what got you
Yep.
interested in getting into that?
Well, my first champs that I went to, I made it a point to I showed up with like a case, and so I was born in Las Vegas. Both my parents are from Vegas. They worked in casinos before they started to go on the road and be artists. And so I have family on both sides in Vegas. And when I heard, I was living in Kansas City, yeah, working in my basement, and I'm starting to see all this stuff on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, all these like trade shows are going on, and there's flame offs. I'm like, I want to do this. So I just bought a cheap ticket. I showed up, stayed at my cousin's house, and took a case of glass to Champs. And I made it a point to go around and introduce myself and talk to every artist I could meet, and just bit like, why are you here and how are you doing this, and like look at what you're making and pick up glass and look at it, and like just the in-person experience of the scene and everything that it encompassed just skyrocketed me into just like, this is what I love to do. I'm 100%, I'm coming back every year. And I met the girl from Cherry Glass there, and I was looking at her stuff and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'd seen electroforming, but this is crazy cool. Like, oh, like, wow. Like it, and we just, I don't know, we just struck off, friends personality wise.
Hmm.
And then she came around telling me she's doing this tournament thing, and she's like, yeah, it's like all about like wholesale, and like, yeah, you got to make a spoon and a pinchy. And I was like, for sure. I mean, I had so many people coming at me with like, oh, let's collaborate, and you want to do this thing and you want to be a part of this thing, and I'm like, yes to all of it. I want to do it all. But then I overextend myself. Usually that's kind of my problem. I try to do a million things at once, and I want to commit to everybody and everything. And that's why I get so booked all of a sudden.
Yep. Oh, I know
And I
that one.
try to, into every hour of every day, and then I'm just exhausted. But so she's like, I've been trying to do it for a couple of years, and this year I was just like, I'm just not saying no, like I have to do it. So I was like, okay, it's not until March or something, and it's only, and even then, even when I did it, and I was just getting so many posts a day, and I'm having to repost, and I'm like, go live. It did end up sucking up a lot of my time, but it was really valuable and it was really worth it, and I'm really glad I did. And um, it ended up like opening more doorways. And so, yeah, those guys are cool. They put a lot into it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, I've been talking with them for years with them when Scott and Ryan started doing the Tournament of Fire, and it was fun to see because it was an idea that I had years and years and years ago. Not this Instagram.
it's hard to make it work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. But the idea of like doing this, pipe tournaments and stuff. So we've been talking to some ideas behind the scenes for a while now on how we can expand this Tournament of Fire into to being something that's actually like three artists competing against each other in person, kind of thing, like a Food Network kind of competition, kind of situation, and take advantage of it. And I think that the way they were doing things, and it's taken them some time to figure it out, like how to make it work for everybody, for the shops and the sponsors. And
Yeah. I don't know how they have time to make glass when they're doing all of that.
I
It's
know,
like a
right?
whole job.
Yeah, Ryan seems like she's got a lot of the handle on stuff, where Scott's kind of back behind the scenes doing the glass stuff or running the studio, or
Yeah.
I don't know, but they definitely do a lot of. And they put together a team, that's been pretty cool. But it was fun to see, and it's definitely
Yeah.
cool
She's awesome.
taking advantage of the Instagram, ideas, and and again, it's for artists that can get involved in this. It's a great way to promote yourself. And you were up against some stiff competition with the artists that you were going against and the last minute stuff that was coming together. It was
Yeah. I didn't really get the most votes. So I was kind of surprised that I wanted to end, you know?
yeah, I think
So
it was like the judge vote at the end or something. I don't really remember how that whole thing went down, but
it
yeah,
was kind
it's
of confusing, but like her positivity and her just in person was like hands down, it was like I'm all for it. However you got to figure it out, I'm
yeah,
for it.
yeah, it's pretty rad. So once session 2 and 3 are done, then they'll have those winners, and then the Grand Masters finals will happen, and then you'll be involved with that. And I'll definitely make sure we keep things posted as these sessions roll out, and then we'll announce when the big Grand Masters finals will come on again, and let people know where they can find that and find you out there as well.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, I think it'd be a good time for us to take a quick break, thank some sponsors, and then we'll come back, and it'll be time for us to crash the kiln.
Okay.
This episode of The Glassblowers Companion is brought to you by listeners like you. Come join our Patreon group and gain access to exclusive content not available anywhere else. For as little as $1 a month, your contribution will help this show grow, giving you access to tutorial videos, live streams, discounts on merch, and most importantly, become a member of a growing glass community. For more information about our Patreon group, use the link in the show notes or just go to patreon.com/WiseGuyRadio. That's patreon.com/WiseGuyRadio. So the crash in the kiln round, which I have not done in a while. Hopefully I remember all the questions, but it's about seven questions, and you can give me a 30 to 60-second answer, or we can also expound upon your answers, which tend to happen. And the first question I always like to ask, which is a doozy, is if there's any living glass artists that you like to work with and collab with, in a sense. Who is it and why?
It was hard for me to figure this one out because there's so many, but my first instinct was probably Mike Luna because he mixes the functional with inside an amazing sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to do that, so I would love to be able to work with him.
Yeah, he's a badass for sure. I had him on just recently on the show, and just to catch up on stuff, and then having Scott on also, so it was fun to have the Dragon guys back to back in a sense, on the show, and it's
him as well. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Scott's works crazy. Both those guys. It's pretty amazing. What are your top 5 favorite colors in glass?
Okay. So the The blue stardust I use on everything. I like the pink slime or purple lilac because it puts this like purple foggy hue to everything. I
Hmm.
layer that a lot. I really like the Molten Aura purple, uh, the purple amethyst. Um, I like blush pink because it gives you different shades than your regular rainbow palette.
Hmm.
And I like layering a lot of things over white. So I guess that'd be five.
Yeah. With the purple amethyst, is that the Chinese purple that you're referring to?
No, the purple amethyst is like the rose gold
Okay.
amethyst. It's like it's kind of like a grape color almost,
Yep.
but it's like a transparent purple that is the most purple
Yeah, for
made
sure.
by Molden Aura.
Yeah, they have a great that. It's like their furnace line of glass that they came out with. It's stuff is rad. I haven't bought any yet myself, but I definitely want to get some. And it's talking about color. I was talking about this with Scott the other day, and it's like molten ore, for instance. They're fucking expensive. Like their material is not cheap. Even for a glass company. But
And
they
it's hard
it's
to work.
yeah, but it's so saturated color wise.
Yeah.
You can make it go so far just adding clear to it or over clear or whatever. You can take a
Yeah, I'm amazed I'm still doing new things with new colors. Still being in
yes.
this. So,
Same with me. And having not really work, I'm still working amber, purple, and ruby. You know what I mean? And
oh my
blue
God.
moon. Like I love that shit, but I still like.
Gordon used to come into the distributor and just buy like 20 pounds of amber purple and ruby and cobalt.
Yep. Yeah. Those.
Like just those were the go-tos. Yep.
Yeah, the staples. But like recently, I just bought a bunch of color last week, and I got a bunch of new stuff I've never used before. Like I got a pound of serum just to play with it, and I've never used it before. And
I like that one.
yeah, it's fun. It's stiff, but it's fun. And I actually coated it with I don't remember what UV is. One of the UVs that it's like blue V that turns to blue UV, and just for shits and giggles to see if I can get the CFL reaction and also the glow, because with with the Carlisle, it's not very nice to color, and I tend to beat the shit out of everything I work on just to put everything I make
So do I.
through the rings of my bullshit. So I was like, is this stuff
Me
still
too.
gonna glow? Is it gonna change the CFL? And I made my piece that I made out of it, and still have a bunch of prep, and it does both. I'm pretty stoked with it. So it's fun as I learn the new colors. Like my brother's been doing this now for about 9 years, and he grew up with all this new stuff. So he's like fully all about like all the new shit all the time. He's like teaching me stuff, and
Love that. That's great.
yeah, it's killer. So whenever I have new stuff, I go to him. I'm like, hey, dude, so I got this stuff today. So walk me through the process.
Yeah, me too. Like I'd been blowing glass for a long time, but then I got to hanging out with some newer glass blowers and they knew all the hype colors way better than me. And I'm like, how do I use this?
Yep, I know that's
You
what I go to
know,
him
what
for. What's hype
doing?
right now, dude?
Is it worth it?
So
Exactly.
so funny. I mentioned something the other night to my wife, and she's like, "That's a young person's thing. How do you know about that?" I'm like, "Cause I'm hip." And she's like, "Okay, now you are old because you used the word hip." So funny.
Yeah, my dad still says groovy. I
No.
don't know. I mean, it's definitely yeah, the lingo with Instagram, especially with the auctions and all that stuff. It's just so beyond me. I feel kind of old for sure.
Yeah, I know what you mean. 100%. So funny. So
With yeah, I try to get in there though. I try to get in there and do some new stuff with some new colors
hell yeah.
and get people excited about it.
Well, the colors that you mentioned are not easy to use, so definitely appreciate the work.
Yeah, like I said, I've just now tried some greasy tubing, the satins. I was like, wow, this is really satiny. This is cool, But I layer a lot of stuff. People ask me like, what color did you use for this or that, and I'm like, I don't know. There's like 12 colors in there, So for me, that's part of like I feel like maybe I mean everybody does things differently, but like what makes my piece different from somebody else's is literally I will just take all the different stuff on my palette and table and make it work in a different way for me the
Yeah,
best that I
totally.
can. So I have to kind of balance and choose between what works, what's not bubbly, what my torch is going to work well with, what my hands can handle, like, what works well on a vac stack. Like I'm just using everything at my disposal to try to make the coolest outcome of like, if you blur your eyes, does it look sort of pink purple? Like, what did you get to make it look like that?
Yep.
So I just can't explain it, but it's like I'm doing my magic.
It's a fucking
and
blast
I use
too. I love it.
all the colors I can. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like I've got a bucket full of just like ends of colors pieces, and I'm like, I just grab a couple out of them. I don't even know what they are. I'll just grab a couple out of my bin and just like,
And you got to be careful what not to use. I used a stick of dark green in a vac stack. It checked the whole thing.
oh, it's the
It was
worst.
a quarter tube of 75 mil. Like, and because I
Jesus.
used one stick of Glass Alchemy green, it was like just super checked. And I was like, oh man, haven't seen that in a while. There's a time and effort lost. Oh, it was a bad day.
Yeah.
But you get back up and do it again.
Yep. Exactly. I know, and it sucks because there's not much you can do with that except for maybe cut that line out with the pair of shears, and then it's even then it's like what
Oh yeah, I don't even think that's possible.
Yeah, I
But
don't
it
think
was
so.
amazing. Like showed me it like literally it was like what you know like everything you know nothing.
Hmm.
Because it was like I worked it out. Like I melted it out and I made a spoon out of it and the spoon's still sitting there and the spoon hasn't checked yet. So I'm like, is it gonna check years from now? Is it gonna be okay? Could I make stuff? Do I risk making stuff out of all of this pounds of tubing? And I'm just like, I don't even know. I'm going to put it aside, take a couple deep breaths, start on something else.
Yep. It's like using opals. Like the fail rate on opals is just terrible, but it's an amazing piece when you
Really?
can. Yeah, yeah. From what I hear,
I have a low percentage of fail rate. I use opals all the time.
so my fill rate that I've had has actually been like 2 years down the road. I've had customers hit me up like,
Oh,
"Hey, so
oh,
this checked in the belly
this,
yesterday."
huh,
Yeah, I've had a couple,
interesting.
probably a half a
Yeah,
dozen pieces over the years has done that. It's weird. Yeah, and I love them. I think like I've done crushed opal, like every you name it, and my process of prep, everything's done properly the way it should be done. It's just I don't know,
right. Yeah,
just.
you have to know, you have to feel secure in your method. Like,
Hmm.
especially if like you're building a big piece with a lot of attachments, you have to know that what you started with was the right way to start.
Yeah.
Like you have to know, like that's the only way I find confidence in those big pieces and an annealing flame. I didn't know how to use an annealing flame until I got to Oregon a couple years ago. I didn't know about bridging. I didn't know about like bridging. Oh my gosh. You
Yeah, it's
know,
so
like
funny. Yeah, so like then again this round always goes off the rails, so whatever. But
sorry, I know this is supposed to be a quick round.
oh no, it never is, so it's okay. But so like I was saying, like I just getting back into recently making my own handmade joints. Like I've been using graphite tools for 20 years, literally, and just like 2 weeks ago, I finally, or I guess about 3 months ago, I bought two joint making tools, 14 mil male and female tools, blast shield tools, I believe that are brass, and I still have like graphite reamers. And I'm like, fuck, I need to get a nice brass reamer. So I finally got a brass reamer. And then I'm like, okay, so how do I use this properly? So I'm like going online trying to find some videos and stuff just to make sure I'm not making a mess. I'm using beeswax, etc. But then I saw a couple videos online of some dudes making some joints on pieces and how they were putting their joints together. And forever I would just stick a piece of 14 mil into the joint, and then I would attach a puntee and then bridge it. But then I saw this dude do a cold seal on a joint and use that cold seal on a blowpipe, like a fluoride piece of blowpipe. Did a cold seal on the opening of the joint, and use that as a blowpipe to attach the joint to the back of the piece. And I was like, oh my god, that's fucking genius! I know how to do cold seals. I've been doing them
Yeah,
forever, but why didn't I ever think about that? And every
yeah,
time I've done something with like a 14 mil joint, male into a female joint, 9 out of 10 times it gets stuck, and then the piece is fucked. I got to rip the joint off and make it all over
yeah.
again. And now I'm not dealing with that anymore. My very first time attempting this process with this cold seal came out flawless, and every time I've done it since, it's come out flawless. And I don't know. That was just a little whole side thing on there, like learning new shit.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've been through the same sort of thing.
I love it.
I feel you on that. When I first learned to do the cold seal, and that's still the way I do it.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, these little tips and tricks, oh, change your whole world.
Yeah, totally. It was and it was Chaw
That's
that
what really helped.
it was I think it was Chaw I saw that did it. He was on Torch Talk on YouTube, was doing one of his little penguins.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was rad.
I'm,
So I was stoked.
this is really great. I'm not just sharing, but learning so much just talking to you. Like it's pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
Next question.
Yeah, absolutely. So see, we done that in color. I guess I'll go to the what's your worst injury in a studio?
Oh, besides a couple like sticking my whole thumb in the flame, I sliced my left forearm open with a jagged piece of 26 mil, putting a case on a shelf.
Oh,
Like pretty wide open, and still have a pretty vicious scar from it, but like straight down, like I couldn't see bone, but like whoa, like that's a slice. That's just some sharp. When you touch a like a glass cut's pretty vicious.
yeah, where it doesn't bleed for like a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden it's like a
Yeah, you
waterfall.
just see the fat. You're like, whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like one of those movies. Yeah.
yeah, it's terrible. Did you have to get stitches?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, nice. It's always fun.
Yeah, so watch out for the big jagged pieces when you're stacking shelves. But yeah, I've just countless burns, sticking fingers, wrist in the flame. When you actually do that one, that one's always puts you in check. It doesn't even matter. You're just like at that point, like, okay, what's wrong with me? Why am I not paying attention?
Hmm.
Or
Yeah.
when you drop a giant chunk of something in your lap, but you stand up pretty quickly. I sit down and blow glass most of the time. I'm still trying to work out the best situation for sitting, standing. I kind of want like a torch stand. Like I want to change the way my workstation is always to just like this super advanced uh
Right.
hybrid of what you're making, between the way those Japanese guys work, like way down in the table, to,
Hmm.
to way a lot of these guys work standing, like Buck, on big pieces, and where you just like put a piece on a freaking table and just like get in there with your little torch piece by piece. And like there's just so many different ways for people to work nowadays and to avoid injury.
Yeah, and that's the main thing is like the being able to have longevity because like I used to sit a lot when I started working with Gordon. He sat, did a lot of sitting when he did his work, and then I did my thing and I built my benches and I sat for a bit and then I'd stand and I'd sit and I'm like, okay, what's the best? And I think the best for me is both, depending on the situation. If it's a big piece, I'm standing. I have a floor mat
Yeah,
that's like
the
an anti.
safest way to hold a giant chunk of glass in case it cracks off or something, or, it not burning your face too, like keeping
Hmm.
your face from being burnt. It's so challenging. I definitely work with behind the blast shield. And like I said, I've had this terrible eczema that is it's inflammation. And so like when I have it on my face and neck, it's like an itchy rash, and like the heat does not help.
No, not at all.
So literally having to work covered, I literally want to design like a ninja body suit that makes me like, you know, able to blow glass safely. They
Yeah,
still don't
yeah.
have a lot of good protection for your arms or your face that's like actually breathable and workable.
Oh, I know. Like Kevlar sleeves are just way too hot.
Oh, yeah.
They definitely are at times like I love them, like wearing them. Like when I'm working hot shops, like I definitely like to have a Kevlar sleeve on my hand that my right arm using or my right arm when I'm using the jacks and stuff. But
Right.
but still you can't protect like the side of your hand. It's like
No, my hands and my face and everything, you got like it's challenging, and we need better gear
yeah.
on that end.
Yeah, it was just funny that you say that. Last night I was thinking about this exact same topic because like at work now, and once I actually start in the parks, we're gonna have to wear face masks when we're working. And for years, I've seen lady glassblowers wearing some kind of bandana or something around their face, and I always understood the reason why. And then the shields came out, and I saw less face coverages and stuff. But
Hmm.
having now worn a mask, and even in the warehouse, we have to wear them, and I've made my own little kind of riggied up, out of an old tie-dye
Yeah.
T-shirt. But I love wearing it, like just keeping that heat off my face. Even though I've got a shield up, it's just one extra layer of protection.
Yeah.
It's a
It's so much cooling as long as you can puff through it, and stuff like gets in the way. Like even in the winter or working in the summer, like in the summer your skin needs to breathe, but like in the winter too, like you can't wear anything too bulky and you're trying to stay warm.
yeah,
And like your hands and your feet, like it's like the gear for working, it has to be like lightweight but like protect you from the heat. And the same thing with keeping your glasses on,
hmm,
and like like being able to see what you're doing. Sometimes I feel like a surgeon, like I'm like I have to be able to get in there with this tiny little tool and I can't see it and I'm sweating, and like it's so challenging to just have all the comfort stuff to be able to then work that torch and melt that glass and make the magic happen.
Yeah, absolutely. There's
And
also
what
for the ladies, there's that great bras of fire product out there. It's like
oh yeah.
the Kevlar pads for your bras, which I think I had her on the show, Nadja Gustafin, who makes those, and just because I never thought about that before, like for women, like I know we're getting UV exposure all day long, and my concern also for us, and this again off the topic here, but over the years of all this exposure to the chemicals and the flame and the UV and all this other shit, like how many of us are going to get sick from the long term exposure to all these elements, like a ton of shit we're getting exposed to, not to mention silicosis and the cuts and burns on top of everything else. And then but like your boobs being exposed to the flame and breast cancer issues and stuff, I wasn't even a thought ever until I had her on the show, and I was like, this is I'm glad you came up with this idea, because I guess she's got big boobs, and she had like really bad issues one day with them getting so hot working with her husband who'd made this crazy big stuff, and it made her think like, I got to protect my boobs. And again, I think it's a great product. Entrepreneurship is always creating a solution to a problem of some sort. But yeah, I don't know. That just being weird.
I'm down with it. I want all the gear to protect and just to make it to where I can work safely, to protect my skin and all of that, especially too with like I remember there was one girl, I think her name was Happy Glass, and she was having this terrible skin problem on her face too. It's like you wear too much sunscreen, and then it like I said, I had a friend who had melanoma removed from his face for blowing glass for a long time, and like like you gotta watch out. It's definitely dangerous, just in more ways than just cuts and scrapes and carpal tunnel and back pain, and there's so many.
I know. What the hell are we? What are we thinking?
Oh, I and I knew it, and it's like, and then people look at me and go, "You gotta charge more." I'm like, I know, but I want it to be affordable, and I just love everything that I make, and I want people to be able to own it and have it, and like for me to buy $1,000 piece, if somebody spends that much, I think the most I've sold a piece for solo piece was 1,600, and still I was just like, oh my gosh, like wow, like that's a lot,
Yeah.
And so like I've just to be in a place where I'm not doing, $10 bats all day long, and I can make something that I actually can just put a little bit more work into. I'm grateful and happy. But yeah, I'm always looking out for those ladies making the products. I need like better face masks and better sleeves and all that really cool festival gear that I realized that I'm now kind of breaking out because of the COVID. I got all the masks and the scarves, and like I got from Benjamin Dyes, I got these really cool ink blotter like prints. They're like it's like a ski mask sort of. It's like a mask. It's like a thing that goes over your neck, but you can wear it on your face too.
Okay.
And those were kind of helpful now, but I'm like, and I've gone through so many different glasses and trying to keep them, on my head. We need the good gear.
Yeah.
If whoever out there can make some really nice gear, I'm ready.
Yeah, 100%.
Safety gear for glass blowers, because like you said too, I know Lacey had this awesome like leather thing that actually like she would wear when she would demo, and now the demoing has become like more of a entertainment sport, like with people up there fire dancing and live art and all of that. I really hope that America gets healthier, and we get all of this virus under control, and so we can all get back to the progressive, outgoing exposure that the glass artist community so needed.
Yeah, totally. Well, speaking of burning your boobs, there was a video I saw of a glass artist. I don't remember who it was, but she was doing furnace work demonstration as a show, and was in like full body paint, with no coverage on her boobs at all, just body paint, and she's working this furnace. And I was like, oh my god, how are you doing this? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I don't think you should blow glass barefoot. Even you could like cut your foot, or you could drop hot glass, but like it's hard for me. Like I start sweating. I can't work in a lot of sleeves. I like to wear, in the summer especially.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yeah, just keeping the sensitive parts very protected.
Yeah. I'm using board shorts.
So close to my torch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Especially the Carlisle, because at Carlisle, the whole torch gets hot. You know.
I tend to actually, and I can't like work with a blow hose. Everything's tangled. I'm always hitting the torch knobs with my boobs and just like, because I work so close. If you're doing anything detailed, I've been more doing stringer drawing where I have to get just the angle of your torch too, and like getting close to, and just like how close you need to be to draw. Like I'm resting my hand on the head of the torch
Hmm.
when I'm drawing, almost. And so like you get all up close and personal with the
Yeah,
torch.
definitely.
So
Is your Carlisle a rack and pinion or is it ball and post?
um I I worked on the same one for like 12 years, and I think that one I think they're both ball and post.
Okay.
But I got a newer one that I bought used. Um and I still trade out my the GTT when I'm doing bigger prep because it definitely has more power.
Yeah, I need to get
I
one for
just
myself for
haven't
that.
used it very well yet. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah.
Excuse
All
me.
good.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Next question. So, when you're in the shop, do you watch TV, listen to the radio, or do you do both?
Headphones and music, so I can just channel in. And I've been listening to more podcasts between music. But there's a TV on behind me, and then there's a mirror in front of me. So like everybody else in the shop always has something going. It's nice to have like a TV on. I used to be really bothered by the TV in the shop if it was like too loud and really annoying and distracting me from what I'm doing.
Hmm.
But I don't mind it now. And most of the time I'll put in headphones anyway, and I really like my headphones.
Nice.
So
Heck yeah.
finding that right music groove too. A lot of SoundCloud playlists that I love, and I mean I love all kinds of music. So it doesn't matter if you're in some bassy, trancey groove or hip hop or just some good reggae. I love. There's a radio station here that plays old school Jamaican reggae, and I love that.
Nice. Yeah, I'd like to dance in my studio when I get a chance.
Yeah, I'm the dancer for sure of any time, and like especially if I'm like feeling like a badass doing something like pulling flat cane, and I play some like specific music that tailors to that, and I'm just like in some of those steps I feel like gosh, this is what I meant to do
Hell yeah.
when I'm doing it right and I'm doing a good job, and I'm checking all my steps and everything's going good. I definitely am like jumping around in a lunge or in like to get the right angle too, because the height. So I'm sitting, but then when I'm standing, I need it to be a little bit higher. So
Hmm. That's funny.
definitely dancing and throwing glass. I'm all for it.
Hell yeah. It's like the soundtrack to your life. You like when that's the music and your work all lines up perfectly. It's like you're in your zone and you know you're supposed to be doing this shit. It's perfect.
That's it. That is it right there.
Yeah, it's rad.
Love it.
Yeah. So next question: do you have any glass blowing themed tattoos?
Um, yes, almost all of them. I mean, I got my first tattoo was just like a lotus with some roses when I was 19 in Michigan. Um, and all of my tattoos have been like, what really embodies you? Like, what do you love? So they're all flowers, and like sort of tribal Polynesian kind of with
Hmm.
pattern work. I have one on my forearm that has an opal flower on it, and it's backed they're all super rainbow color
Nice. Yeah.
also.
Hell yeah.
And then some pattern work like chip stack, wigwag, like it's all in the detail. It's all series of dots. But almost all of them have rainbows and flowers and spirals. And I want to get more. I have a full
Rad.
back piece too. When you think about getting a tattoo, you think, okay, I'm going to have this forever. Do I really like it? And what do I love that much that I want to put on me?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Exactly.
art, pattern work, I'm all about it. And I traded glass. Like I literally traded a swirly flower piece for my swirly rainbow flower tattoo.
Hell yeah. I'd say like 90% of my
It was
tattoos are
awesome.
trade with glass. Like it's probably the first
Yep.
year of pipe making, like all this shit garbage that I made. The guy that had the tattoo shop down the street was opened up like a little smoke shop in the back of it, and he loved it because it was like stuff he could sell for like $5 or $10, to his customers, and it paid for a lot of my work. Or doing demonstrations at like the tattoo conventions, which was always a crazy time. Watching people doing suspensions
I
with all
would
the
love to
hooks.
do that.
Oh, it was a rad time. It was cool. Yeah, and I did a lot of tattoo trades because these artists were from all over the world would come in. So it was pretty cool shit.
Most of the anytime I get a custom order for something, I'm like, I tell the customer, I'm like, okay, think about it like you were trying to get a tattoo, like give me some flash of like what you like and what colors you like and what style you like, and I'll come up with something for you. It's not like you're literally, telling me I want this or that. It's like you're not telling me, okay, I want a pink seahorse. No, it's like I love your pieces. Give me some inspiration, but like let me come up with it for you 'cause I'm the artist.
Yeah,
Doing
totally.
customs is so interesting, but I always tell them it's like getting a tattoo. And it's going to be a couple weeks. And like let the stuff sink in, and then I'll come up with the final product for you. You know. Um but yeah, I I love supporting other artists, and I would put tattoos all over me. And for tattoos also, it's like, even if I did like ever get a different job, it's way more accepted. Tattoos and piercings and bright colored hair and
Hmm.
stuff like that. With, you know, we're not degenerates anymore. Now we're uh
We're
we're
accepted.
professionals.
I know, it's crazy,
Yeah,
right?
we're accepted and we're professionals. Yeah, it's like, and tattoo art's expensive too. you know.
Especially these days. I can't even get over how expensive tattoos have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, I got a great deal on all mine because it was trades and stuff. Yeah, I have a full back piece too that is like, you can't really see it, but it's all flowers and it's full rainbow and it looks like an owl and glass. I want people to put like I want to put glass art on me. So
Yeah, same
I
here.
thought that was awesome that you had that question.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, it's always fun because and it's always interesting too because I've a couple times I've had artists say that they have no tattoos, and it's just the different personalities in our
I
industry.
remember I remember when I first started seeing glass artists get more of their art on themselves. Um, my friend who does all these geode crystal pieces, she has this awesome rainbow crystal structure on her arm, and it's so like her work too. And then I remember seeing like when Banjo started getting more of his like detailed, like it's all just bringing more art to it. But then
Hmm.
you could see it while he was demoing, and you're like, oh man, that pattern work. um, Mapleson too has some really nice artwork on his on sleeves, and I'm just like, oh man, it gets me so excited. I want to get more.
Yeah, yeah, I know, me too. But my wife has a whole. I think it's her. I should know this. I think it's her left arm. She has a full sleeve, and it's all grayscale, but it's all portraits of like her favorite Marvel characters. And the way it's a phenomenal like
Awesome.
hours and hours and hours of work. But every time I see it, I'm like, oh god, I've been jonesing for some fucking ink.
Me
Like
too. Now, even with the COVID, we can't.
I know it's crazy. It sucks. So let's see. Next question. Just what are your top 5 favorite tools besides your
Oh yeah, the tools.
yeah, besides your torch and your
Right.
glasses and your kiln? Yeah. So those don't count.
Right. Okay. Because I knew I was like, well, those have got to be on there. How good a quality glasses you are is, but or have has been always like, do you use the basic rose didymium or do you use the really nice Aura lenses, which are way heavier?
Hmm.
But yeah, having good glasses matters. What torch? The little torch. I don't know if that counts, but having that tiny torch, I wanted to mention
Oh,
that
it does.
that the tiny torch, yeah, the tiny torch is a really amazing, useful tool. The brass reamer, I was going to say that you mentioned that earlier, having that brass octagonal reamer. I gave it to my shopmate the other day, and he was like, "Oh man, this is a game. This is amazing. Like I can get in there with that loop way better." And I was like, "Here you go. Use this." All of the joint reaming tools are really important too, especially for making rigs. But as far as 5 tools, I also really like the little flat spatulas that are like the dab tools or dental pick set.
Hmm.
They're like tiny flat and I can like get in between pedals. And like I went over to my friend's shop the other day to do a demo, make something for him. And I was like, you don't have these? I need these. Uh my pedal mashers. I have a little, it's like a tweezer, but it's shaped just like a pedal. It
Hmm.
doesn't have leaf prints or anything. It's a pedal masher. And I use those. I just like I went to Texas for the armadillo one year, and I stopped at my older sister's shop first, and I forgot all my tools there, and then I showed up, and I was like, "Okay, you guys, I don't have a reamer. I need pedal mashers," and I was literally like in need of at least the bit. Like I realized at that point that I could not blow glass with everybody else's tools, that I needed my tools,
Yeah.
and so. Pedal mashers, dental pick, brass reamer, tiny torch. What else do I use a lot of? I guess that's it. I don't really use the tungsten very much. Uh, shears, cutters.
Okay. Yep.
I use the cutters a lot
Okay.
to get in and separate things that get too close, like a pedal or this or that. Because I work in such small spaces with such small welds that like um, sometimes it touches and I got to be able to separate it without messing up either part. So the little cutters are really important on my bench. And also a pair of everybody sees these needle nose, but I use a pair of like just like little plier cutters.
Okay.
And those I use those a lot for cutting 3 mil and cutting stringer. So when I'm drawing with stringer, I need a flat end, and so like I always need to just like cut, or when I'm doing lip wraps, and those I use those probably 100 times in a day, as much as tweezers.
Nice. Heck yeah. So like myself personally making flowers, I've made thousands of them at work. I do like a basic rose. It's like a 6 petal rose. And
Hmm.
I mean, because I made so many, like we have our shop in Disneyland that we don't blow glass there anymore, but sometimes we do production for them, and they needed 100 of my red flowers that I make. So my manager's like, "Hey, I need them this week," and I'm like, "Dude, that's like 600 fucking petals I got to press out. There's no way." Like I told him no, you know, but I still ended up having some shoulder issues from all the pressing petals over and over, that motion, you know what I mean? But people at work always ask me like, "So what's your favorite thing to make?" And I'm like, "Well, I know what I don't like making, and it's flowers." But I got after this whole COVID thing has given me a chance to get back to like my making flowers again, and I've always loved making flowers. I had a guy that I worked with my friends over at Zen Glass, and he grew up in his dad's nursery. He had an orchid nursery, so he got into glass blowing and would make glass orchids. And this guy's orchids were like realistic, like amazing how just like watching this guy working. So it's always intriguing to me. So like lately, I've been making some sunflowers, and I'm making a daisy for a friend of mine today. And it's every flower is different, you know, but it's so
Yeah.
tricky to like lay, especially like this daisy. The petals are white, you know. So you know, white is a pain in the ass. It's like so soft sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So
It's
trying
so
to
soft and buttery. I can't make anything out of white. Yeah.
yeah, and like trying to lay petals together and not having things touching too much, but you want them to touch, but then you don't, and then you don't want to have checking issues or cracking issues, and my
Hmm.
God. So
Even the tiniest little thing will crack. Even petals, like if I don't at least I try to warm them in the kiln too. I
hmm
don't use a Bunsen. I should use a Bunsen for big assembly. I just used an annealing flame. And I built flowers forever without any bridging.
huh.
And it was all just timing, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So like it's definitely I've learned so much more about working smaller and working in a smaller space and working with smaller, more fragile little pieces, and like it gets better and better. But I watching people sculpt flowers, there's something about it. Yeah, I love the diversity in flowers. I've just have always been amazed by it. And now I've been making some more orchid shapes and trying like that's the thing, sticking to like, okay, I'm making this order and making a paycheck today. They're all going to be the same. But then I want to make I want to make a bunch of different stuff. I really want to make the most unique orchid I can make and spend all day on it, you know, but I'll get there. I'm integrating some time for that. But I know that I've definitely made daffodils and poppies. And back in the day, I was experimenting with Hawaiian flowers and other pendants and stuff. But to make it wearable and not fragile, and like adding more welds, people are always popping petals off of these ones. And I fixed this one probably 20 times. I've had this is I was at a show dancing and I was like, what happened? Like there's a sharp piece and like I've cut myself with it. Like, yeah, you know, all my friends that wear my pendants though, it's just like a personal connection. And I do all the beadwork, and my little sister does beadwork with all these crystals and stuff. My dad has a full like jewelry bead shop and he sells crystals. And so I send him some stuff sometimes, but most of the time for Ren Fair, my stuff's too higher. It's too expensive. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I also at Ren Fair used to make a ton of perfume bottles with the little corks in it, hundreds of like $3 fume, turtle, um, honeycomb, like every little the chili peppers, like
hmm
tons of little perfume bottles by the hundreds, and they'd sell essential oils, out of them. And that was really good gig, for a little while. I missed that. That was awesome. Looking back on my past history of all the stuff I had made always makes me just want to go back to the torch. And it always gives me my confidence in low moments, even if it was like, not really as quality as what I'm making now. It was like, at least you tried that.
Yeah. So, well, have you gone back and like gone back to those old things and try to see how? Because like I love like making wrap and rake spoons. So every once in a while, like I start making some wrap and rakes, just to see if they've changed at all.
Yeah.
And it looks the same as it did 20 years ago. In a sense.
Oh, and coil potting twisty cane too.
Yeah.
And doing that one. And like, I've never been that good at fume besides like basic fume, but what people are doing with it now, seeing a few like really inspirational fume artists, on Instagram has just made me want to like do some of that again. That color changing pipe, that neat little chameleon type blue, purple, hazy piece. I want to figure out how to work that in there. I'm just usually overwhelmed with too much on my plate and wanting to do too much. I'll set up a sheet of like, this is what I'm going to accomplish today. Even if I get a quarter of the way, I'm happy. But
yeah,
I always wanted more.
I have my list on a clipboard in front of me on my bench right now, waiting for me to start checking it off.
Well, yeah.
So I totally get that for
Right
sure.
on.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That's cool.
Well, before we let you go here, if you want to give us some parting piece of advice to whether it's to the new and old glass blowers out there, and then also where we can find you out there in the world of cyberspace.
You can find me on Facebook as Blossom Sky Night. You can find me on Instagram as Blossom_glass. And I have a Big Cartel listed there too, where I sometimes put up some pendants when I get a chance. And advice is just always be true to yourself. Don't worry about everyone else. Do what makes you happy, and practice gratitude and kindness. Always be open to helping each other, because I wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for all the people that helped me. So like, support yourself, and don't get down on yourself when it doesn't work like you think it's going to. Keep trying.
Yeah, because it never does that. Maybe, like we said, you get beginner's luck sometimes, but then it's pretty hard to repeat.
Oh man, and it will test you and test you.
Yeah.
And so stay positive.
Hell yeah, well said. Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I definitely appreciate it, and congrats again to the first place win there in the session 1 for this season 3 of Tournament of Fire. And you can find Tournament of Fire out there on Instagram as well. Right now they're in session 2 has already begun. I guess in the meantime, thanks again for tuning in to this episode of the Glassblowers Companion. Make sure you're staying safe, talking to your friends out there through however means you can, just to keep yourself sane. And we'll talk to you next time. Enjoy yourselves. Take care. Peace.